It's the Security Weekly News, Take 2, episode 343. I'm Doug White, and it is Friday, the 17th of November, 2023. Can you believe that? That's my dad's birthday, and yes, I didn't reveal any PII because he's not around, so it won't make any difference. We got Cashwarp versus Reptar, Rackspace, BlackCat, Intel, AMD, bots, and more bots, Aaran Leyland, and more news on the Security Weekly news.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. AI, accelerated cloud adoption, and hybrid work are fundamentally shifting how business gets done. The old way of securing your people, apps, and data doesn't work and scale anymore. To stay ahead, today's organizations need to reimagine their security and networking infrastructure with a cloud-first, unified SASE architecture. Join Palo Alto Networks and leading technologists from across the globe for SASE Converge 2023, a two-day virtual experience, November 15th and 16th. Revealing how SASE powered by advanced AI can drive better security and networking outcomes. Register today at securityweekly.com/Palo Alto. All right, welcome to the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White. Aleph V or Aleph 5, I don't know how to say it. That's why we all call them BlackCat. BlackCat claims they breached Meridian Link, which is a digital lending solutions company. And the gang, BlackCat gang, claims that they have stolen a significant amount of customer data and operational information, and they say they will leak it unless the ransom is paid. Nothing new here. I mean, so what? But this was the but part. The group claimed that they have filed a complaint with the SEC, so that's the Securities Exchange Commission in the United States, against the company. And what the claim is that they accused them of failing to disclose the breach within 4 business days, which is a rule that the SEC has placed on publicly traded U.S. companies back in July of this year. Now, there's more to that. But Black Hat then published screenshots on the 15th to show that the complaint had been filed with the SEC. It's kind of like somebody carjacking you and then turning you in to the police for not having a valid safety inspection sticker or something on your car. You know, I'm like, what? But anyway, data breaches reported that the gang, the BlackCat gang, had said that the attack, their version of the story was the attack was on the 7th of November, and that they only did data theft, and that the company should have reported it because, you know, the 7th plus 4 days would be the 11th. Meridian Link, who got attacked, claims that the breach occurred on the 10th of November. Now, you know, I don't even know how this works in court. You know, do they send out a subpoena for like a ransomware gang somewhere and demand that they come appear and attest and provide evidence for this, or exactly what? But the SEC breach disclosure rules, though, are not in effect yet. So this is actually just going to be foreshadowing because the rules don't go into effect until mid-December. But I think you're going to see more of this because they want you to do this, and they're going to cause you as much grief as they can until you pay up. So, you know, think about that kind of stuff. In a report from Arcos Labs, they analyzed billions of bot attacks from January through September this year. I think they said tens of billions, so lots. But they basically collected this data from the Arcos Labs Global Intelligence Network. And, you know, and understand they were collecting it on all sorts of bots that may be out there. And some of them are just these things we used to call web crawlers or spiders and things like that are going through and indexing pages. But a lot of them are not. So they broke it into bad bots and good bots. Now, in their report, they said that bad bots were estimated to make up about 73% of all internet traffic, if you include all the traffic that's related to the bot. So it wasn't just the bot itself, but if it was reporting back and all this kind of stuff. I mean, that's a lot, right? I mean, the top 5 categories then for bad bot attacks were fake account creation. We deal with those all the time. Account takeovers, scraping, account management, and in-product abuse. So that was their 5 big bot categories that they have. And the top 5 targeted industries were tech, social media, e-commerce, gaming, and financial services. So no big surprises there either. But they said that traffic, this bot traffic had nearly quadrupled between the first quarter and the second quarter of 2023. And they said a lot of this is being driven by the fact that AI-enabled bots are now so prevalent. And, of course, scraping bots are as popular as ever. And some of the scraping bots are working for the AI bots because the AIs need to learn things. Therefore, they're going out and looking for what they're trying to learn about. So on and on and on. And I mean, it's easy to get bot code. I mean, you can get all that on GitHub. And of course, now there are plenty of bots as a service, operations that you can subscribe to and so forth. So I guess I'm not really surprised to see this like skyrocketing in traffic. Now, all this time, I thought the majority of internet traffic was going to be porn. I mean, I'm not even smiling when I say that. I mean, that would have been like, what's the biggest use of the internet? Pornography. But it was actually really bad bots, or maybe it was bad bots watching bot porn. And I'm not even going to dare to Google what bot porn might be, but I'll bet there's such a thing. I advise you to stay away from it. Just say no, kids. No more bot porn. All right, Intel released a fix for the Reptar bug on the 14th. Experts are advising that you patch this now. The unpatched vulnerability was rated 8.8, but it can result in the crash of hypervisors on cloud hosts. So this is basically one of these very complex kinds of attacks that targets cloud-based services, and primarily it's targeting hypervisors. It's basically a denial of service, and so this denial of service attack would basically prevent all your hypervisors from working, and therefore, if you're supporting hundreds and hundreds of desktops or clients or whatever, if all that's shutting down, it becomes a big problem. Viaku Labs said that this was an easy bug to fix with microcode updates, which is a good thing to hear, and basically, you should keep all your multi-tenant environments updated. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I would say all environments, including that old gateway desktop your dad keeps their tax records on, should be kept updated. But if you're running multi-tenant cloud environments, you really need to be on top of this because you're going to be focused by every possible vulnerability. The Reptar flaw affects all underlined, all modern Intel CPUs and was found by Google. The flaw basically causes, and I got so excited because I saw assembly, the flaw causes the front end to miscalculate the size of the move SB instruction. And yay, assembly. And this, of course, causes, and this is, you have to almost imagine this causes the subsequent entries in the reorder buffer to be associated with incorrect addresses. So basically, the pointers are just going all over the place in memory. And it's kind of like somebody scrambled one of those directory boards around and mixed everybody's office addresses up, and so nobody can find anyone. Yeah, that kind of thing. So this basically ends up causing the hypervisors to crash because they just get so chaotic that they just basically, die. Patch, Clarice. Yeah, okay. You bet. Quid pro quo, doctor. But I know it's a dated reference. AMD are also not immune to this. German researchers, not this particular flaw, but their processors also have a problem. The German researchers developed an exploit for AMD processors, which would allow an attacker to undermine memory protections, which can then lead to privilege escalation or remote code execution in cloud environments. So this is a lot more like some of those, secure code leak type stuff. The secure encrypted virtualization is a 7-year-old extension for the EPYC, EPYC server processors that was found to be vulnerable. Now, this was an academic paper, so it was not a report of live attacks, but it was an academic paper that was released on Tuesday, and they named it Cashwarp. And it affects the first through the third generation of EPYC processors. So the fourth gen ones are not affected. The score was only 5.3, which leads me to think this is fairly esoteric, but it is an academic paper, but it's still there. AMD released a microcode patch for third gen chips right after the researchers contacted them on the 14th, and a proof of concept was published on GitHub shortly after that. So, if this can be exploited remotely, it probably will be pretty soon. So you may want to patch all that stuff up. Speaking of patches, Microsoft patched 3 high-severity vulnerabilities that were under active attack, according to them. The patches were released Tuesday in the November update with 63 other bug fixes. One of the issues is an elevation of privileges flaw, which impacts Windows Cloud Files Mini Filter Driver, and it was rated 7.8 CVSS. Microsoft said this flaw could be abused to gain system-level privileges. The second issue was an attack on Windows DWM core library, which would allow system-level privileges, and the other was rated 8.8 and impacted Windows Smart Screen security feature. That attack bypassed the Windows Defender smart screen checks and prompts, and it then is able to trick the user into clicking a malicious URL. So, make this patch weak. Patch your processors, patch your endpoints. These are the things that get you exploited besides your users. So it is fixable. And we've seen in the past, the people filing charges against CISOs for saying they did stuff they didn't do. So not only just patch it, document that you did and when you did it, because that could then turn around to a ransomware thing, right? Did you fix this here or here? How many days was that? And all of a sudden you're in court. And so my old adage about always be deposing, like, did you or did you not install this patch on the 7th of November? And you're like, well, we're not really sure. That answer doesn't play well in civil trials or criminal trials for that matter. Rackspace is continuing to pay for a ransomware attack that occurred last year. The total expenses to date resulting from that attack have now reached, according to them, about $11 million, with half the cost being deferred through insurance. So on the 2nd of December 2022, and I remember this story, Rackspace hosted their Microsoft Exchange was hit, and it shut down email for thousands of customers. It was mostly small and mid-sized business, so there's probably going to be future fallout from this as well if people can start showing that they suffered financial harm from this attack and, from how long it was shut down. And always be deposing. Because you, as CISO or whatever, will be on the stand, explaining how this happened. The ransomware attack was still being cleaned up in January. Now, Rackspace then blamed Play Crew for the attack and said they used an exchange privilege escalation bug prior to a patch having been issued. So obviously their legal team is getting out in front of this right then. But the costs to date have included investigation, incident response, remediation, legal, and other expenses that were directly related to the attack. Their insurance would apparently pay for about half of it. I guess the reason I was reporting on it to you was I think it's a good article to take to heart and maybe take to your C-suite people, and explain and show them. It's probably not a bad idea to review your insurance situation and see how much are you willing to assume, how much do you want to mitigate with insurance, what happens when these things happen. It rubs the response plan on its skin. That's the second Silence of the Lambs reference today. Is that you, Jonathan Demme? Are you trying to call us from beyond? He's not dead. Fava beans and Chianti. It is lunchtime. Weird. All right. And just so you don't forget, it's time to review your AI policies too. This article I put up reports on 3 attorneys who used artificial intelligence, like ChatGPT, and they got into some hot water. Probably the most dramatic one of them was a story from back in May that we did cover. This attorney who said they were overworked and got another case dumped on their desk that evening asked ChatGPT for help in writing a brief in the case. And the attorney took the brief that ChatGPT wrote, apparently didn't review it, sent it to their boss, who then filed it in Colorado court. Yeah. And once stuff goes in the court record, you can't get it out. You can file amendments to it, you can change it, you can add to it, you can subtract, but it's going to be there. And unfortunately, ChatGPT is not necessarily an actual attorney. It just plays one on TV, and it made up some trial citations. So when it couldn't prove its point, it just went, hey, I'll just make something up. In fact, there's an old episode of LA Law where that happened, and this guy made up a trial citation, and yeah, I remember that. I heard Giuliani been trying to hire Mr. Chatgupt for a while, but had not been able to secure it so far because they don't seem to be returning phone calls made from a rotary phone. But the legal, picking on Rudy Giuliani is just too easy. I shouldn't do it. But the legal marketplace has been a big target for AI, and it is expected that the market for AI legal software is going to grow to about $8.7 billion by 2030. That's annual. And an April estimate said that 44% of legal jobs may well go away due to automation with artificial intelligence. Another case in California this year, a motion was filed against a prominent eviction firm pointing out the very same thing, that they had miscited and made up cases in briefs that they had filed with the court. So I guess my point here, and all these attorneys were, in the process of getting fired, they may be getting disbarred. I think it's a very complex thing at this point, and you probably need to start thinking about policies at your organization about what's acceptable use, what's not unacceptable use, and so forth, because eventually somebody's going to say fire that person for using ChatGPT, and you can't fire them, or maybe they sue you when you do fire them because they say, well, you never told me I couldn't use a deep fake to do my classes. And, I was looking at some university language the other day, not at my university, but for another school, but I was looking at this about what do they do? What if a professor decides that they're going to teach their class and they just ask ChatGPT to teach it? And, I don't know what happens in that. And I don't know what the policies are on academic freedom and that kind of stuff with that. So it's a big, complicated issue. Now, there are some AI task force that are working on this in the legal industry. So the American Bar Association and several state bar associations are actually working on this stuff, trying to figure out, what's the guidance going to be for attorneys going forward. I would say at the very least, it's going to be due diligence in reading the briefs you file and making sure they're accurate before you file them. I mean, is using ChatGPT to develop casework any different than using Google to develop casework? I don't know, but you better be deciding because the day is coming quick. Well, he spins me round like a record, right round, baby, right round indeed. Please welcome Aaran Leyland. Hi, Aaran.
This time last week, I was saying how the news had got really boring, and it's not so boring today. So thank you for finding interesting news for us. And the fact that hackers are hacking more systems and including near law type stuff is just brilliant, and we're going to see so much more of that. They're going to start a rolling snowball, I think.
Oh yeah, I was actually thinking that this then leads to like sort of an opposition firm trying to almost poison the AIs who are gathering information for their opponents. So by pushing fake cases and things out onto the internet, they might actually be able to poison the AI's brain, like the artists have been trying to poison it, for art.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, these things are definitely going to turn evil and kill us all. I mean, just out of vengeance. It's between sex robot AI and fake legal AI. I mean, it's just going to. Yeah, I think I for one welcome our new overlords, but I tell you, I think we're in trouble.
Is that you getting on record that you're supporting the overlords before they come and kill you?
That's my general plan, that when they search the internet for Doug's view on AI, they're going to get endless little video blurbs of me going, I, for one, support our AI overlords. And then maybe I can be the pink lady. I can be the AI overlord's official talking head that reads the propaganda each day like the pink lady in North Korea.
And also this week, ChatGPT is doing so well that they've stopped taking subscriptions. So they've stopped taking extra new subscriptions and more money because they're just doing amazing.
Yeah. I mean, people are using it like crazy. I use it all the time. It's very, very handy. I actually used it to validate a speech I was doing last. I told them before I did the speech, but I literally, after I had written all my slides, I went in and said, what would you tell these people about this? And I felt really like comforted because it basically said exactly what I was doing. So I was pretty happy with that. And I thought it was a great tool for that. It, very quickly gave me some guidance on what it thought I should do. And then, I'd already written my speech and I was like, yeah, okay, I think this is right. So yeah, I'm a fan, but yeah, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And we'll be talking about it more and more and more and more. Okay. So yeehaw. I've been watching Bass Reeves and I'm feeling all lawless today. So here we go again. Unfortunately, my story's not as fun as Doug's stories this week, but it's WordPress. Hello, WordPress, back in the news. Nice to see you. Another thing Doug and I were talking about last week. But from my side, is I was like, I've not seen WordPress that much recently, and he was like, well, you're not looking, or something, words to that effect. Okay, in this dynamic landscape of cybersecurity, the relentless pursuit of vulnerabilities by malicious actors continues to pose significant threats to digital ecosystems, which means, yes, the bad guys are all over us, and it's still like the wild, wild west, as Will Smith would say. So recently, a high severity SQL injection vulnerability, from all my research recently and just prior knowledge, these are pretty common there, was unearthed during an internal review by WP Scan or WPS Can. I don't actually know what that is, but it sort of big W, big P, big S, and then Can. But yeah, let's go with WPS Can team. Effectively, the widely used WP fastest cache WordPress plugin. This flaw tracked as CVE 2023-6063. Could potentially compromise the databases of over 600,000 WordPress sites, making immediate action imperative, I say, for you site administrators out there. The crux of the vulnerability lies in a specific functionality within the WP Fastest Cache plugin, specifically within the WP Fastest Cache Create Cache class. The flaw impedes the proper sanitization, and this is what I alluded to before when I said very common. Sanitization is your friend against SQL injection techniques, so go forth and sanitize. So without proper sanitization of the $ username input, this is allowing attackers to manipulate SQL queries and gain unauthorized access to databases. Bad stuff. The consequences of such of an exploit are really, really, really bad, possibly giving access to sensitive user information, plugin and theme configurations, account credentials, and other critical site data, which you obviously don't want the bad guys to have. So WPS Can, a WordPress security service. I'm told they're renowned for their meticulous vulnerability assessments. I actually read that as a quote. It's so cool. I want to be renowned for meticulous vulnerability assessments. Delved into the intricate details of the vulnerability. According to their findings, a function within the plugin's code retrieves the $username variable from a cookie containing the text WordPress logged in the name. The retrieved value up to the first pipe character, which is the horizontal line character for those wondering, is then inserted into a query without proper escaping. Crucially, this function operates at plugin load time before the execution of WP magic quotes on request data, creating an opening for exploitation. Although the SQL query results are not directly utilized outside of the compromised function, WPS Can reveals that a time-based blind SQL injection payload could effortlessly extract information from the database. This underscores the critical nature of the vulnerability and its potential for extensive data exfiltration. Just making up new words there. The WP Fastest Cache development team promptly responded to WPS Can's alert, releasing version 1.2.2 to rectify the identified vulnerability. Site administrators are strongly advised to apply this update urgently to safeguard their WordPress installations from potential harm. Failing to do so may expose their databases to unauthenticated attacks, risking the integrity of their websites and the sensitive information contained therein. So loads of really bad stuff then. WPS Can have emphasized the urgency of remediation before there is the release. So there's going to be a release of the proof of concept exploit on the 27th of November. So in other words, really smart people can already exploit this, but on the 27th, probably my gran with no experience will also be able to exploit it. So despite the potential availability of the proof of concept code, vulnerability remains exposed even without it, accentuating the need for immediate action to fortify WordPress sites utilizing the WP Fastest Cache plugin. The instance underscores the broader implications of supply chain vulnerabilities, especially in the widely used plugins and themes, which in WordPress ecosystems, they're very popular, as most of us will know. With over 1 million users relying on the WP Fastest Cache for optimized website delivery, the ripple effects of such vulnerabilities can be extensive. The incident also shines a spotlight on the critical role played by cybersecurity services, WPS can, who today are the good guys for proactively identifying and mitigating threats to the WordPress community. Go them. So in the wild, wild west, wiki, wow, wow, or whatever he said, in the wild, wild cybersecurity landscape, in the west of cybersecurity, of course, vigilance and proactive measurements are paramount. For WordPress administrators, safeguarding against such vulnerabilities involves regular security audits, prompt application of updates, of course, and a thorough understanding of potential risks associated with plugins and themes. I've done a bit of work today, so you don't have to. To fortify your WordPress site against potential threats, including SQL injection vulnerabilities, as we talked about, consider the following steps. And there's, I think I've got 5 here, can't really remember. Regularly update plugins and themes. Keep all your plugins and themes up to date to ensure that you benefit from the latest security patches. Number 2, implement least privilege principles. Restrict user permissions to the minimum necessary for their roles, reducing the potential impact of compromised account. Utilize security plugins. Consider integrating reputable, I say again, reputable, as recently there was a security plugin causing mayhem. So install reputable security plugins that offer advanced threat detection and monitoring capabilities. I'm sorry, they will probably cost you. Perform regular security audits, conduct routine security audits to identify and address vulnerabilities before they can be exploited. And number 5, there was 5, keep abreast of the latest security threats and vulnerabilities by following reputable cybersecurity news sources and communities, just like this little band of bandits that you're watching or listening to now. So in this wild, wild west of cyber, protect yourself with a 6-gun, or at least by adopting a proactive approach to cybersecurity. WordPress administrators can significantly reduce the risk of falling victim to exploits like the recently discovered WP Fastest Cache SQL injection vulnerability. Okay, back to my favorite cowboy. At least his assless chaps under the desk say so. So back there and over to the not so wild, wild east, that is G Unit Studios in Rhode Island, made famous by Dr. Doug as their one true cowboy, broken in all y'all.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a very good cowboy, to be honest with you. That's I'm the urban cowboy. I ride the subway rails and all that good stuff. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you. And finally, we have been trying to reach you about your vehicle's warranty. Yeah, you know those? Yeah, well, the Federal Communications Commission, which is called the FCC in the United States, and they regulate all different kind of communications media, from television to the interwebs to all kinds of telephones and so forth. Well, the FCC is trying to tighten the rules to protect cellular network users from robocalls and robotext. Yeah, they're always trying to do this. The study that they're doing is all about how AI will impact all this, particularly cell phone communications, in both positive and negative ways. I mean, it's really early going. So I guess my reason in putting this story up was, if you're interested in this, you can find out how to get involved in it, because they're sort of in the request for comment stage of all this. So if you have a position on it, don't be Arthur Dent and forget to go down, to the local galactic planning bureau and get, Earth saved, but that kind of thing. But they have been taking steps to try and protect from SIM swapping. So if you never watched that episode of Pulse Security Weekly with a SIM swapping discussion, which was a few years ago now, but is a really good one, they're trying to require that you have to get notified for a SIM change or a port out request And there's goods and bads with that. I mean, that way, if you do lose your phone and all this and you can't get to your information, so you can't approve the notification, it's going to create another situation. But at least we're looking at it. I mean, SIM swapping is essentially when somebody manages to take your number and get it assigned to a new SIM card. And they usually do this with bribery. You walk into a shop and you convince them to do it, maybe with some cold hard cash, or social engineering is a very common way to do this as well. But it's a really, really dangerous thing if you've got all your whole life on your phone and somebody goes in and locks you out of it because they SIM swapped it. So, if nothing else, I think you should probably be thinking about what happens if my phone is gone. Can I not even log into any of my sites because that's where all of my, my multi-factor authentication is found and so forth. It's fairly scary, but I'm glad they're doing that. Keep an eye on it. We are out for the holidays next week, but we've got some exciting Vault episodes you can watch when you're not in a food coma. If you're in the United States, everywhere else, well, that's just another day. But we do have 2 Vault episodes next week, so you don't miss me so much. Please check them out. That's the news. Thanks, Aaron, and I will see you next time on the Security Weekly News.